to my panel presentation for the IARIA Cyber 2021 conference. I'm so pleased to be here and grateful to be a part of this panel discussion. I'm going to go ahead and share my slides, and then I'll start to discuss what we're going to talk about today. Um, as you can see, my panel position has to do with data in the cyber meta-reality biome and microbiome, the complex new world. And this is a concept that I talked about in the IARIA conference last year in Nice, France. I wrote it into a paper and I'm graciously awarded a Best Paper Award for that paper, which I'm very grateful for. I appreciate the IARIA board seeing the value in the concept. And now it's been developed into a book, which will be published next year by Roman and Littlefield, their Lexington imprint. So I'm really excited about that, and just wanted to kind of continue the conversation about the cyber meta-reality biome and microbiome. When I wrote the paper last year, it was just the cyber meta-reality and the microbiome. So I've expanded it to include biome as well, and we'll talk a bit about that today and how that works with data and the discussion that we're having, the panel discussion we're having. This is my official biography, Air Force biography. Just to kind of give you a rundown, I've been a professor of cyber warfare studies at the Air Force Cyber College under Air University for the past 2 years. Really enjoy working there. A lot of great folks and a lot of great work we're doing. Before that, I was at the LeMay Center for Warfighting Doctrine and Education. I was there for about 9 years and served as a cyber professional and worked on 3 different websites, was a SharePoint administrator, and developed the Doctrine web application that's used for all the Air Force doctrine today, presenting all of that Air Force doctrine today. And before that, I was at the 26th Network Operations Squadron in Montgomery, Alabama, and I was the chief of standardization and evaluation while I was there. So, or Stanival, Cyber Crew Stanival chief, and I was Cyber Crew certified. I also wrote basically all the training and evaluations and delivered those evaluations to certify Cyber Crew. In addition to all of that, I was the cyber exercise manager. So I traveled the world, went to lots of cyber exercises and helped run those exercises and gave injects and all those fun things. So had a great time doing that. It was very rewarding. Before that, I was in the intelligence community. I worked for Lockheed Martin on the U2 program, and I was an ELINT mission supervisor, and loved that. It was just an amazing, fascinating job. Before that, I was in the Air Force, doing basically the same thing. So, I've had a long and deep career in electromagnetic warfare and intelligence and cyber, especially. And I'm so happy to be here with you today. So let's go ahead and start talking a little bit about the cyber meta-reality and understanding what this world is. A lot of people look at cyberspace, they talk about cyberspace, and they know how it works, they know what's in it, things like that, but they don't understand exactly what it is. And how I define the cyber meta reality, which I think is so much larger than just cyberspace, it is a reality about other realities. And you can think about it this way, that pretty much everyone creates their own reality there, and you can invite other people into that reality. And that reality includes data, specific data, and some data that spreads across the spectrum to others as well that you share. And it's growing and growing and growing every day, the amount of data and all of what's there. And we have to figure out how to define and manage data in the context of this meta reality that's expanding exponentially and infinitely as we move into the future, because more and more and more people are moving into this reality, becoming parts of it, immigrants into it, and living there actually in this new world. It's an amazing space. So analyzing this meta reality, we have to do it in a multidisciplinary way. We have to look at it from many different context, and then we have to look at it from a physical stance. We have to look at it from a spiritual and metaphysical stance. We have to look at it from a political stance, societal, all these different ways. Um, Evaluating how data exists and flows in an infinitely expanding data space. You think about the universe and how it's infinitely expanding, and it's expanding exponentially, moving faster and faster and faster as it expands. Well, the cyber meta reality is doing the exact same thing. It's always expanding, and the data within it is always expanding. You can just see, it's interesting to see this diagram to the right here with big data. It looks like it's just expanding and growing farther and farther and farther out into the future and into space, into cyberspace, and into the cyber meta reality. So, some things to think about as we go into this discussion a little bit. Um, the way I sort of map this out is many humans are or are already have moved into this infinite data space, and every human is affected by and tied to the cyber meta reality biome and microbiome. I think this is true. Even people who aren't necessarily technically connected as much as a great portion of the world already is, are still affected by it because they come into contact with other humans who, by being affected by it, are affect these other people. It's sort of like atoms bumping into other atoms, and molecules, with other molecules, people with other people. It changes. It's been changing the whole world, and will continue to change the whole world for quite a long time, I think. But this changes not only individual perceptions and management of data, but the fundamental way in which humans exist. Um, I think of my children and even myself, looking at how we have this interplay with technology and with this new real reality, this realistic space that we inhabit, and it's a world that we continue to grow into, and it changes us and thereby changes others as we change. So, as I mentioned before, understanding the cyber reality is a reality about and comprised of other realities. And there are multiple realities. There's your family reality, your work reality, your personal reality. There are military realities, and social and political and religious and spiritual and metaphysical realities. But in this space, in this world, this meta reality, everyone creates their own reality. We invite others to join and participate, and it creates common data. Realities collide, and it creates disparate data. And realities shatter and produce these fractals, and infinite data realities that are shards that, like shards of glass that break and fracture and become this sort of kaleidoscope of realities and data within these realities that become these fractals that spread out infinitely out into space and into time. So this is what we have to consider when it comes to data and how this data is produced and reproduced in this meta reality. So what about defining and managing data within the cyber meta reality? Data salience is based on context. So the idea of, what's important about information, so much of it has to do with the context in which it's presented and the way we see it and the way we think about it. I think that artificial intelligence and machine learning can assist in this. It can help to group data. It can help to refine data. It can help us to be able to determine the usefulness of the data, because so much of what we're trying to do with data in the cyber meta reality is use it in certain ways, hopefully not nefarious ways, but in good ways, in ways that help and help human flourishing within the cyber meta reality. Also have to think about data security and keeping data safe, uh, not just financial data but also personal data, data that's important to us, data that we don't want to lose, data that's maybe we have an emotional tie to it or something of that sort. Pictures of our family, pictures of our friends, or information that we've written. I mean, I know the book on this that I've written most recently, if I lost it, every version of it, I would be devastated, because I'm not only tied to it intellectually, but personally, emotionally, I'm tied to that data. And also, that comes down to data meaning or semiotics. There's semantics and there's semiotics. Semiotics is all about what the data means, what something means to us. And I don't just mean in a way of definition, because that's more semantic, but in a way of actual meaning, and tying it to our personal emotions, to our personal lives, and the way that we operate within them. So, analyzing the meta reality multidisciplinarily. Well, I know that's a kind of a weird word, but in a multidisciplinary way. Um, it's again tied to semiotics. It's tied to metaphysics, technology, social, cultural, religious, philosophical, um, sexual. In any way you can think, we tie meaning, this data, uh, to ourselves, and we have to look at it at so many different levels to make understanding or semiotic meaning out of it, and tie that back to human reality and the meta reality. We have to ask ourselves, are we categorizing data in a meaningful way? Are we actually tying other data or metadata to the data that's there that makes meaning out of it? And I mean meaning in the sense of understanding, but also meaning in the sense of actually it being tied to us in a personal, meaningful way, that makes us want to share it, save it, protect it, and continue to keep it meaningful in several different ways. Evaluating how data exists and flows. The cyber meta reality is always expanding. It has been expanding for a long, long time. I would make the argument that even before the internet, the cyber meta reality, from an information standpoint, uh, just through historical records, books, whatever you want to call it, has been expanding. Now we just happen to have it in a different format, and we're able to use it and group it and make meaning from it in so many new and different ways. And unlike matter in the universe, you think of matter and the first law of thermodynamics, that matter cannot be created or destroyed, that it only changes form, from matter and energy. So matter and energy. But unlike matter and energy in the universe, data is being created constantly. And we're coming to the point now with artificial intelligence, machine learning, autonomous agents, where we're getting to where code is writing code and reproducing data. So it's already happening that data is being reproduced from within its own systems, by artificial intelligence, by machine learning, by these bots that have been created by humans and now are reproducing and creating themselves. And that's a fascinating way to see this universe, that it's expanding and growing, unfettered, and it's not just by human will, it's by machine will now as well. And I believe this is going to continue, and it's going to even grow faster and faster and exponentially, as time goes on, and as space continues to expand as well, into the larger global storage, cyber realm, not to mention the quantum realm for cyber, as it comes along as well. And this data, as it is created, just as we, you've heard of the butterfly effect, and as we make decisions in this physical space, and new things happen in this reality and are created and progress, the ripples that are created by the data that's created, either by human or machine will continue to create new realities, and the ripples from those new realities will send out, create even more. And so it expands and expands and expands. And it's really difficult, if not impossible, to wrap our minds around this concept, but understanding that it is happening, understanding that it is happening in this new world, this very complex new world called the cyber meta reality. That's what I call it anyway. That, I think, that's an important thing to understand as we look at and think about data salience. All right, so just to wrap up this position, understanding the data and information environment, that is really an extremely important part of not only understanding the cyber meta reality, but also understanding how data works within it. Excuse me. how data works within the cyber meta reality biome and microbiome, and how meaning is made. And of course, context. Context is everything. If we think about it from the standpoint of my understanding of the world, my worldview is going to be different from another person's, and it's different from another person's, and it's different from another person's. Now, I believe in objective reality, but I also believe that we construct and understand reality in certain ways. And this is even more the case when it comes to data in the cyber meta reality biome and microbiome. Of course, again, there's multiple disciplines, cultures, values, societies. All of these things come together to make differences in the way that we create data, the way that we view data. And I believe that we're going to start to see very soon the same kinds of context and disciplinary, multidisciplinary way that machines view and create and explain and create value out of the data that they themselves are producing and creating and continuing into this infinite data space. And this infinite data space that we see, it's expanding. I don't think it's going to end. I think that it's going to continue to expand. And as I'd mentioned a moment ago, with quantum computing and quantum storage, all the quantum capabilities that will open up new and greater and I believe infinite space for storage of data. I don't think it's ever going to stop. I think we're going to see this an expanding multiverse of data that is continually being created by human and machine will, and expanding into infinity. So this is my take on data salience and why it matters in the context of the cyber meta reality biome and microbiome. I hope that you got something out of it, and maybe it will help you to think a little bit more in terms of how this works and what this space is and how it's defined and why it's important to us as cyber professionals and data professionals now. And I think that it's going to bring up probably more questions, but also at the same time, I hope that it helps us to reframe some of the questions we already have to be able to make sense of those as we continue into the future and into understanding these things. So thank you so much for your time. I'm so happy to be here at the IARIA 2021 Cyber Conference, and grateful to be with my colleagues and grateful for the opportunity to speak on this auspicious panel. And have a great time. Enjoy the conference, and thanks, and have a great day.